Hey everybody, how you doing? I am Praying Medic. It is Friday, October 9th, and this is my live Q and news update. Q's been busy, got a lot of news, get you caught up for the weekend before you head into your Saturday. Not all the news, but hopefully the news that you need to know about. All right, before we go too much further, if you are looking for some information about Q and don't know where to turn, you might want to check out my book, Calm Before the Storm. This book has 17 chapters, covers a lot of different subjects. I cover subjects like game theory that Q talks quite a bit about. There's quite a bit of information in there about how Q started, why Q began posting on 4chan and then moved to 8chan. A lot of backstory on that. There is also a glossary in the back of the book that has over 500 abbreviations, acronyms, terms, symbols, things that are kind of confusing that Q posts about. And I give, to the best of my ability, I give an explanation for what those things mean. Calm Before the Storm is available on both Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and we are working on book 2. Great Awakening it's going, it's moving, but this last chapter is just a chapter that will never end. Keep finding a few more rabbit trails to add to that last chapter. So more editing, but we're going to hope to have it out very shortly. All right. Those of you who are following along at home, doing your own decodes, you can find Q posts on a number of different websites, including qalerts.app, qag.news, qanon.pub, and qposts.online. And for those of you who are interested, all of the for, 2 years or so, I've been doing threads on Twitter where I break down Q's threads or Q's posts, do threads, explain things, include images, my explanation, links, things of that nature. Well, I'm doing these now. I'm still doing them. And for 2 years, I've been taking these threads, creating a PDF document. And I have PDF documents for all of my Q threads that I've ever done, going all the way back to January of 2018. So when you go to my website, if you watch the videos there, like I said, I have a new video player on the website. Hopefully it works better. Below all my videos, there's a PDF below each video that has the images, the links, the explanation of everything if you need to do a little bit of research, and the links to the Q posts, the websites that aggregate Q posts are there. All right. So last night, Q posted a graphic showing several posts that are related to that Whidbey Island missile launch that happened on June 10th, 2018, as President Trump was on his way to Singapore. All right. So we've kind of seen this before. Q posted this image. This is an October 7th image on the left. And that was 2 nights ago. Then we have a February 15th post in the middle. And in that post, Q said, remember the cover story for this, helicopter. Coincidence regarding Air Force One, regarding Canada en route to North Korea. This is when President Trump left Quebec, Canada, and was en route to meet with Kim, actually in Singapore. Bigger than the 25th Amendment attempt to... Let me go to the zoomed in image here. Bigger than the 25th attempt to remove. Depth of this is very serious. Okay. And then on the right-hand side, we've got Q makes a connection here from that post, February 15th, 2019. Bigger than 25th Amendment. Yesterday, Speaker Pelosi says, tomorrow, by the way, come here tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the 25th Amendment. So it's a little interesting to me that Nancy Pelosi talks about the 25th Amendment the day after Q posted this missile post, which the February 15th post of it mentioned the 25th Amendment. So Q is just drawing our attention there. In this new post, Q said nothing is random, everything has meaning, Q. All right. And when Q says nothing is random, he's talking about his posts. All of his posts have meaning, even if we don't understand all of them at the time. All right, so little backstory for those of you who don't know. The 25th Amendment allows for the president to be replaced if he is unable to fulfill the duties of the office due to illness or injury. And Nancy Pelosi yesterday met with leaders of the House, and they're working on a bill that they hope is going to allow them to remove the president using the 25th Amendment, because impeachment hasn't worked. The Mueller investigation hasn't worked. COVID hasn't worked. They've tried everything in the world. The whistleblower hoaxes didn't work. They are desperate. They've only got so many plays in their playbook, and they're going back to the 25th Amendment, which they've actually tried before. So let's see. This is Q's next post. It was a repost of an Anon who posted this meme. Now that the Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? This is a meme that President Trump retweeted, and the file name is Gitmo Life, if that is helpful to anyone. From the board, an Anon posted this: "We need justice. We are ready. Let's go. Where we go one, we go all." And Q responded with a meme. It says, "In it together. Where we go one, we go all." See this image, this meme here? Take a look at that and remember it, because when the second book comes out, you might see a little bit of similarity there. Hint, hint. All right. Q's next post is about the 25th Amendment. So Q asked, was the 25th Amendment arrow in the quiver planned? Right. So Nancy Pelosi said, we have arrows in our quiver. We're not going to talk about what they are right now. And one of them is the 25th Amendment, trying to remove the president. So Q's asking, was it planned? How long ago was it planned? Was it expected that POTUS would be in critical health state regarding COVID-19? Recovery unexpected. Right? So apparently they thought that Trump was going to get COVID and he would not recover from it, or he would be physically incapacitated or maybe mentally incapacitated, right, due to on medications. And that's what they've been saying ever since he took dexamethasone. They've been accusing him of being on drugs and possibly having neurological side effects. Right, all the drugs that he's taking, they're all trying to figure out, what are the side effects, what's the dosage, what can we insinuate about Trump based on the drugs he's taking. Is he mentally fit? They're desperate for any reason to try to get rid of him. So Q continues, is it impossible to unwind? Once they set this 25th Amendment thing in motion, was it impossible for them to pull it back, despite the fact that President Trump recovered after a couple of days? Next, mentally incapacitated. This is going to be the next thing. And you'll see this. You can see it on Twitter right now if you watch. They're accusing Trump of being mentally incapacitated regarding COVID-19 language. People are dying. Safety and security and well-being. Combat tactics, Mr. Ryan. Q. All right. Combat tactics, Mr. Ryan, is from the film Hunt for Red October, where they turned the submarine into the path of the torpedo. And it was a suicide mission, but it worked out fine. So Q has been hinting that President Trump basically allowed himself to get sick to foil the plans of his enemies. All right. So here's a tweet from Mark Knoller. I just retweeted this afternoon. He says, neither the president nor the White House physician have yet to say whether President Trump has tested negative for coronavirus. Nevertheless, he's hosting a Law and Orders event Saturday on the South Lawn, to which hundreds have been invited, and he'll attend a campaign rally Monday in Sanford, Florida. So what are they doing? They're insinuating that Trump is acting irresponsibly. They don't know if he tested negative. He could get he could get hundreds of people sick. That's what Q is referring to here. People are dying, safety and security and well-being. They're insinuating that Trump is acting mentally unstable, and that is going to be used to push Nancy's 25th Amendment issue to try to get him out of office. And you can see this on Twitter. Just look at all the mainstream media, journalists, and they're all rabidly retweeting things about Trump making poor decisions regarding the health and safety of others because he's having these meetings and he might still be contagious. It's a narrative. It's an op. And if you know what to look for, you'll see it. So apparently, let's see, they expected him to either die or be incapacitated, and it didn't happen. That also brings up another possibility. One of the people on Twitter that I follow said the route of infection and basically the amount of viral load that a person gets usually determines the severity of the case. And she was suspecting that maybe they intentionally hit Trump with a large dose of this virus in some unknown location, hoping that it would give him a very severe case that he wouldn't recover from. Now, I don't know. It's just spitballing. I don't know that there's any validity to that. It's just a theory. So, and Anon posted this, a meme, Nancy Pelosi, arrows in the quiver, impeach, riots, looting, mobs, right? And Q wrote, did you notice the missile within the drop regarding 25th Amendment? So Q here is sort of making an analogy, comparison between the arrows and the missile in this post. Q is suggesting that maybe this was actually an arrow in Nancy Pelosi's vernacular. So there's some interesting things going on here. All right, moving along. Q's next post was about the CIA's surveillance authority. So Q asked this question: what happens if the CIA was actively involved in domestic targeting and surveillance of U.S. persons, direct and indirect? How does one agency attach itself to another? There's a link to the top 10 myths about the CIA. And Q pulled a quote from one of them. CIA is restricted in the collection of intelligence information directed against U.S. citizens. Collection is allowed only for an authorized intelligence purpose. For example, if there is reason to believe that an individual is involved in espionage or international terrorist activities. This is because, I'm not reading the post anymore, I'm just giving you some background. The CIA's charter, when they were created, does not allow for domestic surveillance. CIA is really just a foreign surveillance agency. They're based in the U.S., but they have no domestic surveillance authority. Right? That's why in cases of espionage or international terrorist activities, they could then do domestic surveillance. So continuing here, CIA's procedures require senior approval for any such collection that is allowed, and depending on the collection technique employed, the sanction of the Director of National Intelligence and the Attorney General may be required. So Q then finishes this, look here, FBI, look here, DOJ, do not look here, CIA. Q. If you follow the dots, and if you look at where a lot of this has come from and where it's leading, it looks like the CIA really was in charge of this operation, that Brennan was quarterbacking the surveillance of President Trump, the CIA was running the show, and they had the FBI, DOJ, and other agencies do their dirty work for them. CIA would pick up information and intel from agencies like GCHQ in the UK, funnel it back to the US, and they've been trying as much as possible to wall off culpability and tell people that all of this was just due to a couple of bad cops in the FBI and maybe a couple of crooked attorneys at the DOJ. They're trying to contain the damage to those agencies. They do not want anyone looking at the CIA. And I suspect we're going to learn in time that the CIA was actually the mastermind behind all of this. All right, so there's a link to Q's post. And then Q asks, who was the Director of National Intelligence under Obama? Who was the Attorney General? CIA leads to the top, Q. So Obama's Attorney Generals were Eric Holder first and then Loretta Lynch. And since 2010, his Director of National Intelligence was James Clapper. So they were the ones who sort of facilitated the CIA doing this domestic surveillance. And it's all going to be unraveled. And Brennan is going to be the one at the top, holding the bag, I think. I mean, a lot of people say that Obama, goes to the top, and Obama did know everything was going on. But I think that, it was actually Brennan who was probably call in the shots, and Obama just went along with whatever they wanted to do. So Nanan posted a photo of CIA Director Gina Haspel. Merlin is the file name. I don't think it's relevant to anything. All right. And then Q posts a tweet from John Brennan. This was back in 2018 during Gina Haspel's Senate confirmation hearing. And Brennan said, "Senators, show that you put country above politics. Gina Haspel is a competent, experienced, and highly qualified intelligence professional. Ask her tough questions, listen to her answers, and then decide, but don't penalize her for previous policy decisions or because Donald Trump picked her." So Brennan was pushing for Haspel to be confirmed as CIA director, and that in itself is a little bit questionable. All right. So Q asked, why did Brennan endorse her? Why did POTUS select her as director? The CIA, buckle up, Q. Buckle up. All right. So the reason why Haspel was chosen as CIA director is that she was the station chief in London for the CIA under Obama. She would have known the inner workings of Spygate and how foreign countries were complicit in surveilling the Trump campaign, and in particular, how the UK intelligence agencies worked with the CIA. It would be a good move then to nominate her as CIA director if you felt you could get her to cooperate with the investigation. But if you couldn't get her to cooperate with the investigation, you have a conspirator at the helm of the agency, right? So hiring her was a calculated risk. Pompeo was chosen as the first CIA director, I think, just the way I look at Trump, because President Trump knew he needed someone he could trust at the CIA who could do an agency-wide assessment, and Trump didn't trust very many people at the time. So he had Pompeo go to CIA for 1 year, and then he moved to State Department because he needed the same thing at State Department. So his initial, again, it's just me, spitballing. I think Trump's initial approach was to hire qualified people who were recommended to him. And so he hired Haspel at CIA, calculated risk. He hired Chris Wray at FBI, another calculated risk. He hired Dan Coats as Director of National Intelligence, another calculated risk. He hired Mattis as Secretary of Defense, and it was another calculated risk. After a little while, I think Trump realized that these hiring decisions came back to bite him. I don't think any of these people could be trusted. He realized it. So he changed his approach. He brought in a loyalist, Johnny McEntee, to run the Presidential Office of Personnel. And then he began cleaning house. Got rid of Coats as Director of National Intelligence, put in Rick Grinnell as acting DNI, and Grinnell started to declass documents that Coats wouldn't. He got rid of Mattis, replaced him with Esper. I don't know how much we can trust Esper at this point, but I try not to put a whole lot of my analysis on whether I trust people or not. I think there's a lot of people that you can't trust. However, there are some people who can be used to get a job done even if they're not trustworthy. So he then filled the DNI spot with a full-time John Ratcliffe, a guy that he trusts, I think implicitly. Ratcliffe has been a loyal supporter of President Trump, along with Jim Jordan, Devin Nunes. Right. From that point forward, I think Trump knew he had to have people in key positions that he could trust, even if they were not perfectly qualified. And I suspect that when Trump replaces Chris Wray and Gina Haspel, he's going to pick loyalists that the swamp is going to accuse of being unqualified. I'm not going to make predictions, but I don't think he's going to pick people who have the usual suspects. I think he's going to pick people that'll be a little bit of a surprise to the mainstream. And the swamp is going to accuse them of being unqualified, I think. We'll see how that goes. All right, Q's next post. Shield of Faith. And Q writes, keep firing Nancy. Shield of Faith. In addition to all this, take up the Shield of Faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Q's next post shows the U.S. mortality statistics for the past 3 years. There's links to all of them. And then there is the first 9 months fatalities for 2020, right? So Q points out here that in 2017, the total deaths in the U.S. were 2.8 million for an average of 234,000 per month. In 2018, total deaths in the U.S. were 2.8 million, 237,000 per month. 2019, 2.8 million, 238,000 per month. So the statistics are very, very close. There isn't a lot of variance in this. 2020, total deaths. So far, first 9 months, 2,130,000 for an average of 236,000 a month. If you take that and multiply it by 3 for the 3 months that were not counted yet and add it, you get a total of 2.8 million, which is the same as the previous 3 years. So the death rate in America has not changed significantly in 4 years, even with this disease that the mainstream media is equating to the bubonic plague. The numbers just don't support that. And then over here we have a screenshot, COVID survival rate, 0 to 19 years, 99.997%. If you're between 20 and 50 years old, 99.98%. 50 to 69 years old, 99.5, and then 70 years, 94.6. Aggregate, you have about a 99.9% chance of surviving, regardless of your age. So Q then continues. Why did select Democrat governors push COVID-19 infected patients into nursing homes? Percent of total COVID deaths attributed to nursing homes. The majority of COVID deaths were attributed to nursing homes and the elderly. Who is most susceptible? Same Democrat governors who pushed COVID-19 infected patients into nursing homes, attempting to keep their states closed. Why? Q. Because it's all about, well, these people are sick. I'm not even going to go past that. Just leave it at that. Q's next post has a link to an article in the New York Post where Mike Pompeo, and there's a video and there was an interview with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who said he believes some significant emails of Hillary Clinton's may be made public before the election. And Q says, don't believe everything you read. All right, now that caused some confusion. So Pompeo says, now this is after a lot of chiding from President Trump. Trump was on Hannity last night. He was on Maria Bartiromo yesterday morning, and he was on Rush Limbaugh this morning. He's been making the rounds, and he's been speaking a lot publicly, and he's been throwing some shade on people like Pompeo for not releasing these 33,000 emails of Hillary Clinton's. He keeps on telling everybody, they're at the State Department, and Pompeo won't cough them up. So he's putting pressure on Pompeo. And today, in an interview, Pompeo said, yeah, well, things are coming. We're going to get there. We're going to get this information out so the American people can see it. We're going to do it as fast as we can. I certainly think there will be more to see before the election. All right. So Pompeo is saying that they're going to try to get some of these Hillary emails out before the election. Now, Q said, don't believe everything you read. And Anons were like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean? What's going on? So this Anon said, well, that was the shortest lived excitement we've had all to date. And Q responded, he wasn't referring to Pompeo's statement regarding Clinton emails. Q. Kansas is Q's code name for Mike Pompeo because he served as a representative from the state of Kansas before he became Secretary of State. So Q was not referring to Pompeo's statement. He was referring to, I think, this is the way that Denise explained it to me after I was scratching my head. She said, no. She said, I think what this means is Q is saying there's a lot of news out there that nothing's happening, that we're never going to see the Clinton emails, that nothing's going to happen before the election. And Q is saying, don't believe the fear porn. Don't believe the bad news. Trust the Kansas. Yes, honey?
You can complete that thought.
Okay.
But I have another thought.
I'm being interrupted by my beautiful wife here.
Remember, I also said there might be a bit in that article from the New York Post that
That
we're
wasn't-
not supposed to believe.
Right.
The very last sentence
The last sentence of the article is,
is, I had it up on my phone.
and then you get rid of it.
Cue drop.
I have a link here.
It says earlier Friday, it emerged that Barr had been warning Republicans that a review of the FBI's Russia probe would not be finalized until after the November 3rd election. So it's
Right.
the same thing.
I did
basically.
read that. I did read that. So do you think that it's possible that Q is saying that maybe Barr will have some information on the investigation before the
Maybe.
election?
You could
Because a bunch of people on Twitter, I noticed, were saying that that's what they thought it was about. It was about don't believe this last statement about Barr,
Right.
So
That just hit me earlier.
yeah, I had not thought about that. Either way, I think this is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think Q is letting us know that just don't believe the fear porn. That we may see some revelation before the election. All right. So this Anon said, I'm not going to lie, feeling pretty pumped that Q replied to me. Been here since day one, and Q replying to my most silly reply to Q just got me even more fired up. All right. In other news, Twitter is going to ratchet up its control of the narrative as we move toward the election. So Twitter has announced that as we get closer to the election, they're going to introduce some temporary but fundamental changes, including labeling tweets that falsely claim victory for any candidate. So I guess this is going to be on election night and possibly the day after, until the results of the election have been conclusively determined by mainstream media, authoritative national news outlets that make independent election calls. If you tweet out who won the election, your tweets could be removed. And they might take action against your account, who knows. They're going to slow down the ability for people to retweet what they call election misinformation. Right? This is all about controlling the narrative. They do not want people thinking for themselves. They want you to believe and follow and listen to the mainstream narrative. So, Twitter, the Nazis doing what they do best, controlling the narrative. All right.
There's another Q post after the last one you read.
Is there?
48, 45.
Oh no! Did Q drop while I was? Oh gosh, Q just dropped. Hang on a sec. I have a. Okay, we'll look at that one. I can look at that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll look at the next Q post. Let me finish up the news real quick here. So I've been of the opinion that the mainstream media polls are way off, predicting that Joe Biden has a 16 or an 18 or a 14% lead. There was a Newsweek article today that claimed that Biden has a 21% lead nationwide over Trump. Well, I don't know what kind of dope these people are smoking, but here's a Democrat pollster, John Zogby. He's with John Zogby Strategies. They do political polling. And he says that these polls are way wrong. He said it's closer than you think. He said he has Biden leading Trump by 2 percentage points, 49 to 47%. That's within the margin of error of any poll, which means it's a dead heat. And they're using a 34% Republican, 38% Democrat. So they're using a D+4 sample. A lot of these polling companies are using a D+12, D+15, and D+16 sample to get these polls. There is no way there are going to be 15 to 16% more Democrats turn out than Republicans. That's why I keep saying these polls are fake. They're going to be wrong as can be. So don't worry about the polls. The polls are wrong. And anyone who's worth their salt in polling is realizing that Biden does not have that kind of lead. And I would argue, just throw one more thing. I don't think it's going to be. I think a D+4 sample is wrong. There's way more enthusiasm among Republicans and Democrats. I think it's going to be the opposite direction. I think we'll have more Republicans turn out than Democrats, and that's why Trump is going to win bigly. All right. So Trump was on Rush Limbaugh this morning and dropped an F-bomb. And I'm not going to play the clip. But he was talking about Iran and Iran effing around, and some bad things would happen if they didn't take things seriously. So I thought that was somewhat amusing. And of course, the the mainstream media reporters are losing their minds over it. All right. The Dow had its biggest gain this week since July. Closed up 161 points today at 28,586. And now let's look at Q's latest post. So let's see if I can get this to display. Let's see, how would I do this if I wanted to be sneaky about it? I would do this. Don't leave me. Hang on, I'm going to try something, as I say to Denise when we're in the Jeep. All right. And let's go back to, there we go. Hey, look, there's Q's latest post. All right. It is a link to a Hillary Clinton tweet. Roger that, Madam Secretary. Roger that. I love that. So military. All right. Hillary says, I want the public to see my email. I asked state to release them. They said they will review them for release as soon as possible. This was March 4th, 2015. So 5 years ago, she said she wants the public to see her emails. So Q says, Roger that, Madam Secretary. C equals classified, State Department. Business Insider link. Let me catch that. See what's up with the Business Insider.
So from 2016.
That article's from September of 2016. Hillary Clinton told investigators that she wasn't aware that a C marking on emails that she received on her private server indicated that the information was classified at the confidential level, according to documents that the FBI released. So Hillary was then claiming in 2016 she didn't know that C meant confidential. Right. So Q then writes Clinton Foundation plus Soros, journalists, DIR, Africa, SA, Saudi Arabia, SAPs, China, Russia, Uranium One, Hussein, director. I guess this is Soros, journalist. Director. I'm guessing director.
Maybe directed.
Directed.
Journalist directed.
Soros, journalist, director. I'm not sure. Hussein, director. Benghazi, MB, Muslim Brotherhood, CIA assets, crimes against humanity. Route from Hillary's emails. They went to Huma Abedin's computer because Huma was her personal aide. They got automatically transferred to Anthony Weiner's laptop because they had their computers synced. And that's how the FBI and DOJ got her emails. Nothing is ever truly deleted. Threats, blackmail, and bribes. Q. Yes, I can't wait to see. Hopefully we'll get to see the juicy stuff that was on Hillary's email on the laptop, which went to Anthony Weiner's laptop through Huma Abedin. All right. I'll work on that decode of that DIR, director, whatever it is. All right. That is all we have for today. I love it when Q drops when I'm doing a broadcast. Makes me think on the fly. Keep going. Thank you for joining me here on CloutHub channel 115. I am here every night, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock Eastern. You can also catch these broadcasts after I upload them to the website, my website, prayingmedic.com/blog, B-L-O-G. If you have enjoyed these broadcasts and you want to support me financially, we have the ability for you to support us on Subscribestar. The videos that I do are also uploaded to Subscribestar. So you can watch them there. The link is in the description. The link to my book, Calm Before the Storm, is also in the description box. Please keep me and Denise in prayer. Keep Q and the team in prayer. Keep the president in prayer. Keep the military and the Secret Service in prayer. And I will catch you on the next broadcast.